truck had overturned and was on fire. We've spoken to the fire brigade. No such truck had ever overturned and was never on fire, but every road was closed. And that goes on and on and on. You know, but so many people stand up. It was like I was mobbed afterwards because everybody there had experienced something.
Someone asked her about the clear feeling she has now experienced since the incident. How's Amy doing?
Amy, what do you mean by clear feeling? I feel people's feelings, which is not a lie. It's true, which is and this is going to get.
Let's just do. Sorry, Kaz. If anybody in the comments wants to ask Kaz a question, as I promised, Kaz will answer your question. So if you want to just ask her a random question, she'll answer you.
But there's this lady. What was her name? Amy.
Amy Lou has been.
Amy Lou has been apparently. My daughter's on asking me about the feeling of this, and I'm not sure what she means. But you might find it interesting. Empath, yes, I am.
Oh, Claire Sentience. She's asking about energy, Kaz. She's asking about, you know, that you're quite an empath. So there's a bit of a thing between, you know, this kind of chat and energy and it going a bit woo-woo and people are sort of, you know, a bit funny. It can go off in different directions, but I think Amy's asking about the energy part of it. Do you think, you know, the way frequency, energy, and then obviously the chat we're in, you know, do you think there's a link or do you feel any different after it, like telepathic experience?
Oh yes, I've had visions.
I'll pin the questions if I can. Someone's just put, did you feel telepathic experience on that night?
Well, the man's voice certainly wasn't my voice. And I do feel people's feelings. You know, the guy that turned up that threatened me was remembering what had happened. He wasn't trying to visualize or imagine what I was trying to tell him. Certainly, I do feel people's feelings. It was discovered when, I mean, I got an hour and a half missing time, and that made my stomach turn over because I didn't realize it was only when Gary had established the time of the explosion, that's when we realized we were actually missing an hour and a half in time.
The time was unaccounted for?
Yeah.
And that's normally associated with something that uses antigravitic properties when it's switched on. So that's a very common occurrence.
This is something that perhaps somebody would like to test me for. When I took my polygraph examination, there's a signal inside of me.
I wonder, is there a you know, is that why they mess about with the frequency of things a lot? You know, is there that they're trying to interfere? You wonder. It does make you, you know, outside the box thinking. It does make you consider why they mess about with frequency. You know.
Certainly, the frequencies had changed here because it was snowing in the field where the pyramid emerged, but it wasn't snowing in the surrounding fields.
I have
snowing at the crash site, but not in the surrounding area.
So, Kaz, another question here. How long did the military take to get there after the UAP turned up? That's by Nick.
Oh, days. Just a few days, and they were here. In fact, initially, I didn't know they were here. It was only through my local Pentoke hub that I'd learned they were here because people had been told different stories as to who they were. So that piqued my curiosity. You know, through some of the parents at the school had said, because some people walk their dogs out there, you know, and that's when I went out to see.
And how has this affected your life?
Completely changed. Completely changed. You know,
Go on.
It's exhausting, you know. I mean, I stopped doing podcasts because you know, I was accused of, oh, it's scripted, or this sounds like a story, or.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? I think people thought you was a robot before, but I'm gonna guess that you were probably reading from a book that you'd wrote. Was you getting some things from a book that you'd wrote?
No, it's all from memory.
All right, fair enough. No, I thought you might have been
one of those things.
Just going through the memory of the book that you wrote. Right, okay, that's fine.
So you've ascended.
Are you talking about the information that I know?
I think on about an hour ago you were talking. It just seemed like maybe you was reading stuff that you'd wrote.
No, I've retold this so many times now that it's coming across as being scripted, and it's not. I have to be so careful what I say,
I think so.
Because if I use different terminology, I'm accused, well, Kaz, you didn't say that last time, you know.
I have watched you on your podcast, and you do
I
speak
think
exactly
Kaz
the
is
same. So I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
It's beautiful the way you speak, Cass.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Kaz is probably so aware when you're an empath and you're so aware of everybody doubting you. I think you're nearly tripping your own words up to try and make sure you're coming across right. And she's telling the truth. You know,
Absolutely.
you can tell.
I
How
would
long
never
did it
have
take for
gone.
the military to come for the UFO?
yeah, you can feel it. So I mean,
I do have a
She wouldn't
question
put her
for you,
family.
Kaz.
She wouldn't put her family.
So since the crash happened and that man was outside your house, have you noticed anything else that's changed or that's different, or you feel someone's watching you or following you? Have you noticed anything else at all?
Yeah, there was certainly a lot of destruction of evidence, shall we say?
And we're talking about
Yeah.
Swansea,
Yeah, and the
the car on the road, the motorway.
yeah. I was going to go to Swansea to do a presentation,
Yeah.
and I was late, so I was like 5 minutes behind where I should have been. And in front of me, a huge, car crash that killed like 4 people. And if I had left on time, I'd have been in that crash. So, or could have been. The destruction of evidence here with the ball patch, there were gorse bushes around the ball patch that either didn't grow or were destroyed when that hand of lightning came down. Everything was kind of dead. And now they've been ripped up by the farmer. That field's not been touched in 25 years that I know of. The strange people. There were people that Donna saw that seemed to be cut from the same cloth, almost as if they were related in some way, but they were more chiseled. They looked quite. I didn't see them personally, but
Someone
yeah,
asked, "Do you
we've
think
had
they're
Men
Men
in
in
Black.
Black? Do you think they were Men in Black?" These, I know he has a leather jacket on. Did he? It didn't sound
No,
like
they
that beard.
just
It doesn't usually sound like
no.
Men in Black. Usually bald, weird
They,
eyes,
they
pale.
it was like they didn't belong here. Um, they had winter clothes on when it was summertime. They turned in, and as I explained before, there's a lot of farmland around here, and it's very level, and there's just hedgerows and trees and things, And my daughter was walking up the track with Donna, and she had my dog with her, and these people had turned into a field just in front of her. And when she was about 10 feet away, and when she walked up to see where they'd gone, they'd vanished, completely disappeared. And they didn't, she was quite freaked out when she came back because they didn't look normal. I can't explain it. And I've tried to get her to describe to me what she saw. And the only thing that she can say to me was that they had very prominent cheekbones and very chiseled jaws. It was like they were plastic, if you like, but like they were cut from the same cloth. But
So
they're not.
sort of like, would you describe them maybe like sort of someone that you would see like fashion model-esque in terms of their appearance, like very small frames or quite fit, or like stature-wise, physique-wise?
I can't answer that because I didn't see them, but
Okay. Were they wearing similar things?
yes.
And they
Yes.
were in a pair?
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
Yes.
were they tall?
And very sharp features on her face, and the woman was quite tall,
Blonde, brunette?
blonde,
Blonde.
Blonde.
like Australian looking, apparently, whatever that means.
In the robot way, like the way they was speaking or walking, was it like in a robot way? Because other reports have said these are like
Quite,
robots.
quite robotic. She said they had blue eyes,
All right, thank you.
and that's all I that's off the top of my head now because I didn't see those people. I wish I did, but I didn't. But yeah, there's been a lot of evidence of absence. You're muted. I can't hear you.
You're muted, mate.
Maybe tall whites.
There was something he said a minute ago. I didn't want to interrupt, but I've come across this many times that the beings were dressed in clothes that weren't appropriate to the season. You said these were dressed in winter clothes when it was summertime.
Yeah.
For something to do with protection of the skin and stuff like that. So that's interesting. I'm not saying that's anything to do, but I have come across that. But you said this is a human being, so whether it's something that's maybe a hybrid, something I don't know. But I found that interesting that you said they're dressed in winter clothes in summertime. So
Yeah.
I have come across that.
I'm very chiseled. That's the description I've got. You know, very high cheekbones, very narrow jaws.
You're just describing Daniel Knightley to me.
I
Very chiseled, very
feel
tall.
sorry.
Sound almost like the beings that I met. That sounds similar. Do you think that there were what you would call the Nordics? The Nordic aliens?
I have to apologize because in this world, I'm 8 years old, you know, nearly 9. I'm nearly 9
Wow.
because none of this was part of my life before this. But
I'm 25, so I can help you.
yeah, I mean, I've had the privilege of speaking to some of the greatest minds in the world, including Linda Moulton Howe, that spoke to me for 5 hours, giving me the benefit of her 70 years on this planet. And I'm nodding and agreeing with her. Yes.
And that's on YouTube.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is that on YouTube, Linda Moulton Howe one?
Probably is, yeah. But
What did
you
Linda,
know, she blew me
what
away.
did Linda think at the end of the whole discussion, the whole thing? What did she think? I like Linda.
She went on coast to coast with it.
Right, okay.
She was the first person that I
So
spoke
she
to.
spoke. So she spoke to George Knapp about this then,
Yes.
because he would have been on coast to coast around that time, because he's still on coast to coast.
Hannah,
Yeah, she was
Hannah,
the first person.
sorry,
That's
Hannah
what I
Holmes
have
is
to say.
asking: is there any chance that your neighbour David will share more of his story?
I put in an interview. He's only ever given one interview about this because it still terrifies him.
Can you not
And
tell
he
him how
gave-
nice we all are over here, and tell him to
Look,
come
he,
on?
he gave an interview to Yvette Fielding, which is on my channel on
Yvette Fielding, the
TikTok.
paranormal investigator from Most Haunted.
Yes. And it's audio only because he won't go on camera.
You can come on audio here. You can just come on audio. You don't have to, like you are today.
Look, he's spoken to people face to face. You know, when they've come down here, he will speak to people privately. He just won't go public. I was listening to Daniel's podcast earlier today when you were talking about CE5s. And last year I invited a load of radio hosts and bloggers and TV hosts to my home by way of saying thank you for helping me get this information out to the public. And the one thing I asked for was for us to have a low UFO and for everybody to see it. And that's what happened. Exactly what happened. And everyone was pointing and shouting and cheering and clapping. And I turned around and I said, did anybody film it? Not one of them did. And these are all professionals.
How far's you and this person live from Manchester?
Oh.
Is that about an
Don't know
hour?
how long it would take to drive to Manchester.
No, I'll come to you.
I'm near
I'll come
Cardiff.
to you.
So.
I'll come to you, and I'll come to your friend as well.
Yeah, he would speak to you privately. I will have to ask him, obviously.
Please ask him. I'll drive. Wales isn't that far. Wales is an hour's drive.
He spoke to everybody that came here. So, you know, I would have to ask him, but he's not afraid to speak to people privately. He just
I'll bring him a gift to loosen him up.
Kaz, just out of curiosity, is the site still? Can you still go to the area where the incident took place? Is everyone hiking
Yes.
or walking through there now?
Yes, there's a public footpath that goes through there, so you can.
I mean,
And
But I
gates
think
about, you know,
you
the
should
gates not
totally
far.
go
I'm tempted
there
to
and
come
you
and
should
check
meet
that out
up.
over a weekend.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I'd come down there and you'd take me to the area where it happened.
I think that's what should happen. I think that's where you guys on TikTok should be going, especially you and
I
Daniel.
need to do
bigger following.
I need to do some on the ground things, and there's not much in the UK, but this is, in my opinion, there's 1 and 2. There's this. I put this above Rendlesham because it's so fascinating, the story.
Yeah, this is just wild. It's crazy.
There's so many crossing data points in this case, you know, and I've evidenced everything. I mean, I hauled the Ministry of Defence over the coals over this. And as I say, they did break every rule in the book and the aviation laws. They broke those. And the only time they can break those is in a real combat situation, which is what it was. The transponders were off. They were flying without lights, you know, all of these things.
So these friends of yours, they're not UFO people, are they?
No.
So if you was to show them that what's actually going on in the world right now, where the US is acknowledging that there's reverse engineered and it's being more publicly spoke about, it might persuade them to actually talk about it, and they're not going to be seen as
It's not that, you know, David. It terrified him.
I need to speak to David, Kaz.
We were polar opposites on the night. Okay, I was energized to the point of almost being frantic that I needed to tell someone, and David was rigid, talking through gritted teeth, you know, and quite catatonic afterwards in such deep thought that when we came back to my home to have a hot drink, we didn't actually speak about it.
How old's David?
I can't say.
Oh, I'm not asking. Just, is he older than 40, 50?
He's a man, let's put it that way. He's a father, he's a man, he's not a young boy, you know, he's an adult. I can't give any personal details.
I'm 38, I have 5 kids, a missus and everything, and this is just a passion, and I'm passionate about this. And my
I
children
understand exactly where you're coming from, but it's not my place.
I just want to meet him and speak to him. Even if he just tells me, I don't care.
I will ask him.
A year later, I'll probably disclose it, but if he just tells me, I'll be happy to.
I will ask him and see
I'll
what he
give him a
says.
drink to loosen
And I
up.
don't know if he drinks these days.
Kaz, I've got some other questions here. Have you been subject to any kind of strange activity just on your day-to-day routines, like car doors left open, notes left in places that you know known to be personal places that you can only access yourself?
No.
No?
I've not had that, no.
Have you seen the man again that you saw that came to your door a year later?
No.
Okay.
No. But then, you know, I'm wondering if they've let me get this far, because in a way, some people want the information out there and some people don't. You know, so in a way,
in terms of there's people fighting amongst themselves within that community that are, you know.
I had the Ministry of Defence turn up at one of my presentations. We have an annual meeting every year on the 26th of February. And I think it was on the 4th year anniversary. And we'd had some particularly bad weather. So the 2-mile hill to get up the mountain was virtually impassable. And so these two people, a man and a woman, stood out quite badly, you know. And they were from the Ministry of Defence. She was the good guy and he was the bad guy. And I think he didn't quite realise how closely I'd seen these objects and said, well, how do you know it wasn't a drone that you saw? And I said, well, unless they make drones the height of this room and 6 feet wide, you know, then I'd have to concur. But that it was nothing like, you know. And the woman, she came up to me afterwards and she took me by the hand, looked me in the eye and she said, Kaz, she said, they do know. I said, I know they know. I was there, you know. But when she walked away from me, it was almost as if she had the weight of the world on her shoulders. Like these people are in these positions where they're forced to lie and they don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, and so there is an element within the forces that do want the truth out there.
Well, yeah, we're seeing all that stuff kind of come through the cracks now. There's too much pressure at the moment, I guess, and there needs
but it has to come out. You know,
they have to lie.
I've heard 2027 is the year. You know, when General Dunford was being questioned by Senator Richard Blumenthal for the funding for Space Force, he was asked why it was that they wanted the funding now, or then, I should say, rather than in a decade's time. And he said that he needed to be ready for the mid-2020s. And then since then, it's gone, you know, to 2027. But I found that Senator Richard Blumenthal was the only person to really mention the threat from space, not from Earth, from space. And he said, we know what they are doing. Our adversaries know what they are doing, and they know that we know what they are doing. He said, but the American people have no idea. And he said, and if they did understand the threat from space, there would be some great concern. So there is a threat. They have created a problem for us. Hence,
that's because that we've caused.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're shooting these things down. That's why. That's the problem.
Right, and yet we're not even supposed to know these things exist. Now, I was told we don't have a right to know, and that may be true.
That's ridiculous.
We're not shooting
We
them
deserve
down.
to know, Daniel.
Talk, to be honest.
We deserve to know.
Yeah,
And we
it's a
shouldn't.
reality that they can't tell us
Absolutely.
about our reality.
Kaz, do you have any, apart from the stress, do you have any health things happen after?
I nearly died. I nearly died.
In what way? Just apart from, you know,
Okay. I was made sick from the extremely high EMF that I was subjected to. I didn't know anything about EMF. My electrical dermal wave has been changed permanently. It affected my parasympathetic nerves to a certain degree. In 2016, not long after the event, all of my veins and arteries opened up and my heart slowed right down and I nearly died as an effect. Sorry.
Someone said,
You've gone through it.
do you feel something that goes into or control ideas in your head?
No. I've had, and I call them visions because, you know, everybody dreams every night, but if you dream and you can remember it in the minutest detail, it's a vision, not a dream. And the answer to the visions, if you like, is that sound is the answer, frequency is the answer. And I know that David's also had the same things happen to him.
It's your partner.
Sorry?
Frequency.
Yeah. It's
Frequency.
frequency.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Frequency
people.
opens the door is what the message is. Frequency opens the door. So,
Kaz,
I think.
Kaz,
Sorry,
did
go
your
ahead.
partner witness this?
no.
So I have a question to all of you. Do you ever have this feeling that you're meditating, you're starting to see visions, you really feel that they are there? Like you feel like they're right there with you, you get goosebumps, and it's like they're just announcing their presence. And then in that moment that you have this goosebump, it's almost as if there is a connection of energy going from your feet and up through your head, above your head, and then it just goes far, far, far up into space, basically. And then as you're having this feeling, only a couple of minutes later, there will be helicopters around your house. Because that's what I've been experiencing, black helicopters. And it's been so crazy. I've been saying to my parents, when I'm visiting them, I'll be saying,
Wow.
oh, I feel like they're here, because they know how spiritual I am, so they're fine with it. Then one time there was a chopper, a black hawk or something, coming up to our house and hovering outside of our house. And it was so uncomfortable. And even my mom was like, what are they doing here? And then they flew away. So I don't know if you guys had this experience happen to you as well, frequently.
No.
Not frequently, but I've been having it lately.
Is that remote viewing her?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Do you believe ETs are remote viewing?
I do
Can
believe
answer the
ETs
question?
are remote viewing me. Yes, I do.
I mean, I think that seems to be the form of communication. I think that's something that the universe has set out for sentient beings to use to have non-local conversations.
The one thing that came across very strongly to me was that they are part of us and we are part of them.
Yes, yes, that's true.
A lot of people.
Spiritually, they are part of us.
A lot of people doubt frequency because it sounds woo-woo. This is what I'm trying to get across. You know, there is a definite link between, I mean, you use frequency for radio, you use frequency for medical, you use frequency. People need to start and realize there's a link between, and it doesn't have to be a woo-woo thing. You know, it's a massive link. And
Frequency on Earth has more than doubled.
it's shifted big
changed
time. Yeah.
massively.
I think a lot of people, it's primarily to do with the awareness of all this. I think it's just naturally changing, isn't it?
We also had a lot of UAP sightings in New York when I came there in 2021. We saw a ship or a very big UAP right by the house. And then after, we would frequently see them. And then again, helicopters coming in. And they had orange and red lights. Some of them actually looked like planes. Like they had this green, red, and blue light, I think it was.
They're like that now. Right now.
That's
We are
happening
talking
right
about
now.
different types as well here. You know, obviously the ones that are here, that are under the ocean, that they've admitted are here. We're here before we were here. So whose planet is this really? you know, and then we have the transdimensional and the interdimensional. Of course, Earth is part of two galaxies, not one. It's also part of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, which is only visible in infrared, which may be the answer to why these craft seem to appear and then instantly disappear, because they're changing frequency, a bit like a television channel, that we're on BBC One and they're on BBC Two. And I don't know how long the conduit is between us and them, but you know, clearly there is a conduit that they're able to use the energy points on Earth to be able to do that. And it's what the military are monitoring for. I mean, the whole area around here was quartz. And, you know, I've tried to cover every type of investigation, esoteric investigations. I've had spiritualists, mediums here, sensitives here, and they've been out into the fields independently. So none of them knew about each other, but they've all come up with exactly the same two lines and vortexes, energy points, like they used to be standing stones in those fields, but they must have been moved during Roman times. We can't find any evidence of that other than the stones that have been moved. Almost like a way in and a way out, because the vortexes are opposite to each other. But certainly they picked up on exactly. And the other thing, I had some spiritualists come down to do a spirit box or something like that.
Yeah.
And they said that there was something here. And another spiritualist also picked up on that they were looking for something. And then it was said that it's in the crag. That's a gap between two rocks here. And they wouldn't return back to the area because it made them feel dizzy. This one particular spot in the fields. And we've had people cured from being in those fields. And yet others have been made extremely ill.
Quartz crystals are used in watches, I was saying this the other evening, and in a lot of equipment for, you know, measuring in medical hospital things. There's a lot of quartz used.
Well, we've found beta radiation here that, as you know, is decaying gamma radiation 20 months after the event. And the EMF was so high 20 months after the event that it was still the equivalent of being microwaved.
Wow.
I just want to, first of all, thank you so much for sharing. I'm just so just deeply inspired with everything you said. But I just want to go back to one point that I felt was left on a bit of a negative note and highlight the positive side of it, the 2027 year. Even with this knowledge and the beautiful and very detailed context you provided, it's still, that does not cancel out that, you know, the beings that are on the other side of this are aware of, you know, the multifaceted nature of humanity, and that people like us are able to talk about topics like these in these contexts. So I think that is something that we should kind of be keeping an awareness about as these things unfold, and understand also that, you know, we're just humans, all of us here, and we can, you know, I feel like all of us had like a time before and a time after, and that's something that can be, you know, a message to spread forward. So that's kind of the point I felt inclined to share.
They've always
I
been
do
here.
think
So.
they choose us. I absolutely believe they choose us. And they seem to appear to people without any nefarious intention. You know, I question, were these people like the gods of old, shall I say? Were these the angels of light? Because there are no descriptions of them. They're just
Because I
lights.
have a question. So what I think these beings have had a hand in us being here, whether that's creating us or changing the existing hominid genetics. What do you think? Do you think they've had a hand in us being here?
It's clear that our DNA has been manipulated.
Yeah, I agree.
JR Calder said, do you
That leads to the Anunnaki story.
You're catching up quick, Class. You're catching up quick. I'll give you that.
But if you think about the UK as well, it's such a
That's right.
spiritual place. You guys
grew up-
have the Celtics, you guys have the Druids, and you know, you have a lot of spiritual history. And if you go back to folklore, and if you go back, you know, in general, you can tell that it used to be multidimensional, right?
I grew up in Glastonbury, which is the holiest place in the UK. And
Absolutely true. Preach
That's
on.
why they do this.
Amazing.
That's
can
an
I answer a
interesting
quick
one.
question? Because there's a lady,
No,
or
JR.
sorry, JR Tal 30 has asked a question. what is it? Do you, why do you,
Do you question why?
do I question why I had the experience? I don't know. Maybe because I didn't have any nefarious intention, because maybe because I'm religious or pure of heart. I don't know. But I did feel a spiritual connection, and that's real.
One arm. Have you got a question, One Arm?
Yeah. Well, not a question. I just think like what I believe is going on. And I think like I don't know. I suppose I've come to the right place because there's people here that believe that you can believe in aliens. Then I can go as deep into what I think is going on, and maybe I won't get judged. But I believe that over years we have been told what's going to happen, and there are certain instances that are literally there, like they're happening right now in real time in books that have been written. And recently, just so much stuff, and they have to tell us what they're doing because it's just part of what their religion.
Yeah.
And the idea to me is during lockdown they put up a load of masts, and then I believe that their masts are going to generate holograms, and they're going to use our own weapons against us.
It's a weaponized
One about the
system.
5G towers.
I don't think they're just 5G towers. I think that
What the military were doing when they came here was triangulating a satellite into this area to block the frequency. Okay? To block the frequency, to stop them coming through. And if 5G has, if you look at where they put these 5G masts, it's where a lot of people congregate, whether that be on housing estates or outside hospitals or in shopping precincts. It's a weaponized system, whether it's to protect those cities, those environments from these things coming in, I don't know, but it is definitely a weaponized system.
I think that it's personally to distract the public as they systematically take lives away and use different situations like weather weapons with floods, use diseases, use wars, and use that to get the population down. That's the initial thing.
I think that's a chat for maybe another live. That
But no, that's what I think that the aliens are for.
I'll give you my view on that. I don't know about. I've researched it, but what I will tell you this, and this is gospel truth. There is a 5G tower that's put right facing my house on the main road here, and since that was put in 4 years ago, I've suffered with tinnitus. Tinnitus came out of nowhere. I can't sleep at night now without having some white noise on, because I suffer with some sort of ringing in my ear, and it's been since that tower's there. I'm not saying it's anything to do with that or anything. I'm not suggesting anything to do with 5G. I'm not into that conspiracy, I'll be honest with you. But I did know from that moment.
It's not a conspiracy.
Please speak to Mr. Mark Steele.
I noticed, and I've done research into tinnitus, that tinnitus has gone up, and people are suffering with tinnitus and they don't know why. Yes. And there is things now trying to look for cures. I've tried to find cures, all sorts of remedies to try and get rid of my tinnitus. I have to sleep now with aeroplane noise or dryer noise at night. When I go to bed tonight, I'll put a dryer noise on YouTube and I have to sleep with that noise, or an aeroplane noise, or some heater noise. I don't have silence, I have some sort of ringing. And it's been since that was put there. And again, I'm not saying it's anything to do with that.
The thing is, it's not a conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy theory. I genuinely believe that it's a lack of oversight. We know for a fact. There is other things I've looked into, that it's a raise of frequency that people are starting to experience this as well. So yeah, but I feel like, honestly, because it's not regulated properly, because it's relative to new technology, we are missing some data. I wouldn't jump on I agree with everything you guys said until this point, because I think we know for a fact, for example, if there's electric lines, there needs to be a radius blocked out, because of radiation and different alterations that can happen and so on and so forth. So that could be possibly like a type of a, oversight that was there put intentionally because of lack of regulation, because of coverage. That would be my take on that specific matter. Could it be weaponized? Everything can be weaponized, like a phone call can be seen as a weaponized tool. So I feel like, there is something.
I don't want to get into that on this live. I think we're taking away from Kaz live.
Exactly.
The tower thing is, I'm not massive into that. That's a conspiracy. That's there with COVID, in my opinion, that type of thing. But I have I just wanted to raise that I have suffered with tinnitus for 4 years, and it was 4 years ago that was put there.
Yeah, you can go
I
on
can't
your
pinpoint why I've all of a sudden, after one night, I end up with ringing in my ear.
you
It's
can
not
go on you
really
can go on
bad.
your
It's just
phone
that
on
I
your
never get silent. So if I turn everything off at night, there's always some little ringing, and I never used to have that.
all of our
4 years I've
phones.
suffered with that.
All of our phones right now, if you go onto the terms and conditions, will tell you that they give off they emit a dangerous EMF, and you shouldn't be using them that much.
Yeah,
It's
it's spoke
small
about for
print.
years. You can give you brain tumours and all sorts. But again, I've never believed any of that. I've never.
It's fact.
We'd all have
It's
brain
not
tumours.
believing it. It's fact.
Yeah, but we'd
Like,
all
why
have
do you
brain
think the
tumours.
cancer rates have gone from 1 in 6 to 1 in 2? And
Yeah,
then you
but
got to
if you
realize
can
that
heal yourself too, though, you
the
know.
health company, the health industry is in cahoots with the food industry and with the electric industry. They know they're making you sick, but they're making more money off you, keeping you healthy.
But when you're
Billions and billions.
spiritual, you can heal yourself.
Yeah, I do a lot of grounding. Since I've stopped going to the doctors, I felt a lot better for anything. I don't take any petroleum based stuff. Like, we're talking mainly black seed oil, and I'm completely fine. I've lost a lot of ailments due to that.
Grounding sheet for the bed is meant to be good as well.
Yeah, I've got one coming.
When you
But
plug
no,
it in, as long as it's
sorry.
grounded, apparently it's good for you.
But back to the topic of the
One
aliens.
arm.
The aliens is basically. So I think that the idea of what they're doing is they're going to use holograms, and they're going to tell us it's aliens, and then they're going to usher us into a 2-tier system, which is like a Wizard of Oz style sort of thing. You know,
Are you
like,
saying a blue beam New World Order?
pardon?
Are you saying a blue beam New World Order?
I think that there'll be, imagine like the Wizard of Oz, like someone behind a curtain. I think they're going to say there's aliens coming in. I think they're going to use it. I think this is what books and books that are written
You're
by
basically saying blue beam New World Order.
Blue
Blue Beam is the
New
cover story for what's coming.
Blue Beam.
Blue Beam is a cover story for what's coming.
Yes.
The elephant in the room, blue beam. If we had to admit, do we have the technology to be able to fake a staged alien invasion? I would say 100%.
Yeah.
The US government would probably have that technology to do that. But would they do that because so many people know about that? They don't
That was
use
the case. We wouldn't have all of these.
It's well known. Nearly every other comment is blue beam. Blue
Yeah,
beam.
it literally is. Anytime you talk, this
Yeah,
comes up all the
because
time,
if
so
it is
most people know
blooming,
about it.
if it is blue beam, it's happening now, and look how it's going. I mean,
where that originated, which was Star Trek in 1969. The only relevance I give to it was the guy called Serge Monast, who died 24 hours after being released for prohibited information, who wrote a book on blue beam. That is the only thing where I think there's some credibility to this.
And I think the CIA documents.
From my research and what's coming out and the technology we do have, 100% they could stage a fake alien invasion. These drones now that we're seeing, that could be a minuscule blue beam that we are seeing. Something on the scale of drones where they are putting something in the sky, driving the media to say that we are now seeing things we don't know what they are. Me and Daniel looked at something the other day and it looked like a plane, but yet the media were saying this is not a plane. It looked like a plane. So if I was just looking at it, I'd say that's a plane. So this is something that's man-made, in my opinion. This isn't an alien. This is something that's man-made. Why is it being portrayed as something that it's out of this world?
Because I think
why is that being put out there?
I mean,
it just looked like a plane. I actually asked Daniel on his live, do them lights resemble a plane? I think he said they resembled it. It does look like a plane.
I mean, there was all the strobe lights and nav lights were in the same place. I think it was just the media are mixing it up with drones as well as regular aircraft to make it
and
look.
the fact they used something that looked the shape of a plane, it looked even if it wasn't a plane, it looked man-made. It didn't look alien.
No.
It's like, why is that being drove up? There are things every day that are seen that are not.
But we're yet to build a pyramid that can fly, that can jettison smaller craft.
Yeah, your story is totally different because 1,000 feet, whatever it needs, that's totally different. Your story's out there. Your story's not that can't be man-made in my opinion.
No,
it
certainly wasn't.
I hope it's ours.
And the military response to just one of those things was enormous.
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean,
I agree.
sorry. Yeah, I think one of the questions that was asked actually at the last hearing on the 13th, they were basically saying that it was a very clever question, but they were asking if they were in fact sentient, if they were alive, these objects, not the actual biologics, but the objects themselves were actually functioning in some sort of biomechanical manner. And, you know, certainly the way Kaz describes this pyramid, it's almost as if, well, first thing, the playful thing is not the first time we've heard that. That's been reported many times before, as if they were playing around. That's been mentioned many times before with these types of incursions. So that kind of raises kind of, I guess, concerns about that something that can be sentient and alive doesn't necessarily have to be carbon-based or look like a biologic. It can actually look like an object and be alive still.
That's what it seemed to me like. It was the essence of life encapsulated in these things.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
they
and
seemed
that
to be
is-
alive. They were afraid. They tried to run. They tried to hide. You know, does that sound like anything hostile to you?
Yeah, so it's almost like they're sort of, you know, it's the same thing that people talk about, these plasmas that we see in our upper atmosphere or something that people keep seeing and, you know, saying they're balloons or whatever. But maybe that it's an entity that survives in any environment that basically can shapeshift or do what it's doing, or from what you experience, and can live anywhere, and is just like an animal, but just it can traverse across, you know, dimensions and interstellar space possibly. Maybe that's what we're dealing with here.
Well,
We break down what a human being is, aren't we all frequency and energy? Isn't that what we are?
Yeah, well, science has found out we come from a place called unmanifest. So unmanifest. So if we go for an atom, and then we zoom in smaller than an atom, we get the electrons, positive, negative charge. And then if we zoom in like even further and further, and by zooming I mean what are they made of? Well, the atoms, the electron.
Oh, your mic.
Oh, your mic's gone, mate.
Sorry, so the atoms, the electrons are made of the four, and they say that the four are made of the three, and the three are made of the two, and the two are made of the one. And what they say, this is what science has found, which is not mainstream, is the fact that the one comes from a singular place, which we don't know where everything comes from. We call it the unmanifest, and then from unmanifest things appear. Well, we found out that is literally every single atom within our existence. So what that means is there is a singular connection between every single thing in existence that we know. So that could mean, but that's all that we know. Like they could be completely different, like dimensions, or they could complete some sort of completely different state of matter that exists around us, within us, or you know what I mean. It doesn't. I don't think that. But the fact that we know that, you know, we come from the singular, that's like, I mean, I was an atheist. Now I'm completely agnostic because of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big takeaway. It's a big discovery. It's a really big discovery.
One arm. Not to be a joker, but your battery needs changed in your smoke alarm. Please do it.
Oh my God, you know what? My landlord told me that the other day.
Please do it.
Yeah, no, I do.
Guys. Just for your sake.
Hang on. I've got notes on that.
Yeah, he did mention something like that. There was like a scaling process.
I think what we are facing is the eternal war that's written about in all of the ancient scriptures, including the Bible, where it states that there will be a war in the heavens between those that are coming and those that are here. The second coming, if you like. There's so many things that are going on with the Star of Jacob. That was the star that the three astronomers followed at the birth of Christ. The star sign Ophiuchus is now visible. It's not been visible for 2,000 years. It is now. You know, you can't just take one thing and say that's a biblical prophecy. But we've got rivers flowing out of the empty quarter in Saudi Arabia. Nothing lives there because it's the hottest place on earth. In fact, it started as a river of ice. You know, the Arabs were picking it up and stuffing it in their pockets because they'd not seen it before. And now, you know, they're calling it climate change, but it's not. It's a shift in our frequency and in the pole itself. That's moving. So we have all of this going on. And I do believe it's the eternal war between two warring extraterrestrial races, and we're in the middle of it. That's what's happening.
Yeah, I strongly disagree with that, but it's okay to disagree, and I have my opinions. But and I have.
I agree with
I'm gonna
Maya.
end the live in 19 minutes. So when it hits 2 o'clock, the live's over because it's very late here and I need to go to bed. So
Thanks for doing it.
give people a chance to get what they want out now in the next 19 minutes.
Brad, thanks for doing your story on live. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that was so brave.
It's only a part of it, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Thank you.
That was brilliant.
It's beautiful, Cass. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you know, that's. I mean, that's a pretty incredible claim. I mean, I guess I'm not suggesting that's not possible, but I just think that we need to manage our expectations of what we're dealing with here, as well as, you know, going off with I guess with not theories, but like based on, you know, historical movements that have taken place on Earth. I think that what's going on Earth doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be happening from an interstellar perspective. Maybe it's something that we just don't understand, and it's just that simple that we just don't understand it. So it's natural for us to come up with all these other ideas as to what could happen, but I think we just have to take each day as it comes to try and assess this as best we possibly can, so that we don't have a freak out and people don't start panicking. I think that would be worst case scenario, to be honest. And we need to be sensible about this, especially, you know, the younger generations. I think they're a lot more open to this than, you know, my parents and my grandparents, for example. And I think we're looking at a very different landscape now in terms of acceptance of what this is. If this was happening 20, 30 years ago, I don't think people would have dealt with it well, because you would have more people that I think, dare I say, would be more God-fearing. You'd have more people that would be thinking that the government and politicians are telling the truth and they're there for your best interest. It's a different world we live in now. Those things have been exposed for what they are. So I guess we have to do the groundwork. It's not going to come from governments, clearly. You know, with Congress being intimidated by these guys, not having anyone come into a skiff. You know, David Grush hasn't been in the skiff for 12 months. They're not asserting themselves anymore. What's gone on? Who's approached them? Who's stopped them from doing that? So,
Did you see recently what Dominic Cummings was saying about what happens in the cabinet?
oh yeah,
And
I saw something that was going
yeah,
like
how he
secret
explains
exposure.
basically explains how the government in the UK, and it always has been, and it mostly is anywhere else, is the fact that the people in the government, you have your prime minister, you have your head of state, but then there's always someone there who is a private foreign secretary who makes all the decisions, who's got 10 times more power than Keir Starmer, for instance. Right, and then that's it. You're like, well, what could the government gain? Well, what I can see now is the government is completely dividing everyone with Boris Johnson said himself. He said, "What we're going to do is we're going to put so much chaff out there, so much chaff, so many gaffes that no one knows what to pick up on." And what he means is if you can see right now in real time, there is endless, so many conversation points, so many argument points, so many reasons for people to disagree and agree. There is so much information, real or false, being put on us right now. We know that for a fact.
Points.
A lot of division.
Who's the organ grinder of the government? Who's the top? What is it? Who is the top?
This country,
You know,
there isn't one. In this country, it's run by the World Economic Forum.
It's the chief of military intelligence.
So in that case,
Answer
Klaus
to
Schwab.
the Royals, and the Royals have sold us out to the World Economic Forum.
No, the Royals
The person who
are
has
the
the
world.
secrets is nicknamed the chief, and that's in the United States.
And going back to what Daniel said about 30, 40 years ago, people wouldn't have been ready to hear it. You're absolutely right. We've just come out of a world war.
Yeah.
And people, you know, War of the Worlds was broadcast as a real event, and people did take to the streets and panic because they were looking for bunkers. You know, they were expecting an invasion. You know, is the war over or not, kind of thing. Whereas I think the people of today are ready to hear it. You know,
Oh yeah.
they need to know.
Yeah,
Absolutely in mass numbers. But what I was primarily referring to is the culture surrounding, let's say, the 50s and 60s was very much, oh, we trust our government. They're good people. And we trust our politicians. They're good people. They're telling us the truth. That was never in dispute back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s. That wasn't the thing. Now, no one trusts anyone. That's the problem. No, every time I speak with anybody about this situation, it's, oh no, come on, bro, that can't be possible. Don't trust the government there. Blue beam this, blue project that. Like, there's no trust, zero trust in anything.
Yeah, there was most certainly a turning point in time where the government was trusted, and then all of a sudden it's like we can't trust the government anymore.
Yeah.
And it was probably after the JFK assassination. That was probably when things
most likely,
deviate.
Well, especially recently, I think recently has been the most for me. Like, just have completely just not a word they say. Like, not at all. Like, if I think about this, I was like, who could gain? Like, that's what I always think in every situation. Who can gain?
Lockdown did a lot of favors. I know it was quite a negative experience for a lot of people, but it's been an eye opener for everybody as well. I think time.
Can you believe for 2 years we was all in lockdown? If I'd have said to you before that, and then when you look back now and you look at the stupid things we did.
Yeah.
It was
a lot different in Sweden. Gotta tell you that though.
Yeah, it was. I was there.
A good decision, Daniel.
I was in Stockholm in Mexico the entire time, and when I wasn't there, I
was just rock climbing for 2 years. It was nice.
Can I just ask a question? This is just to the people that are in the box. Who was jabbed?
I was.
Yes, I was, and I I will never take it ever again because I had severe side effects. I have lung disease in both lungs.
Me too. Jabbed.
I got jabbed, but you know what? I lost my platelets recently, and everything went back to basics. So I feel it's really.
I refused.
I refused, but I was potentially trying to be forced, but I refused.
I refused.
Because of the
Who
job.
tried to force you?
So for me,
they were forced. They're saying you couldn't go to pubs, you couldn't go to concerts, you couldn't go to football matches. You could potentially not be in employment. Some employments were putting it into that they needed to be. Our employment was close to doing it. They didn't do it. I wouldn't have done it. I'd have left my job. I would have left my job over that.
Yeah.
The whole.
Did you do it, Dan?
No.
Did you have it done?
No. I was forced to by the airline I was working for at the time.
Can I just say as well, for the record, I did have COVID. I caught it on Christmas Day. There was 19 people in my mum's house. I felt really shit. I had a test. I gave it to some of the members of my family. I had the runs for 2 days and a cold sweat. So I wasn't a bad weight, but it was the runs and cold sweat. Nothing I'd not experienced before. It was nothing. I wasn't breathing weird or anything like that. I'm quite a fit lad, quite a healthy lad. I can understand if you was old, you could struggle with it, and I can understand them potentially having that. I'm not against the vaccine.
I have to disagree. I had COVID and I had the Delta virus when I was in New York, and I nearly died. We had to have people looking after us, and I didn't get any medication. I survived because I took zinc and vitamin B and vitamin D, and I just healed myself. I smoked weed, sorry, but that helped. And then I also took electrolytes, Pedialyte. That saved my life. There was a time where I couldn't breathe.
Everything you just named, I've got in my cupboard there. I've got this.
I've got all that just over there.
I've got the salt.
What have you guys got in
I have a
cupboard?
glass of water and I put this salt in. It's like sea salt or something. I have that, and it does make you more hydrated. But if you just have water, you don't get as hydrated as you think.
Barbara
When you
O'Neill.
have the salt, you get the hydration.
Can I ask a question?
Regular salt.
How does everybody feel knowing that COVID is man-made?
Oh no, that's great.
It's mad.
I'll never do another vaccine in my life ever.
Same
ever
as
again.
AIDS, isn't it? AIDS was man-made, wasn't it?
Never.
Do you know
Has a
the
patent number.
tests? You know the tests, right? So the tests were invented. The PCR test was created by a guy called Carrie Mullis, and you can research this. He, in inverted commas, was unalived at the end of 2019, and before, like months before, he was berating Anthony Fauci, saying that he doesn't know anything. I don't know why no one's listening to him. He's a dangerous man. he ended up getting unalived, and then people uncovered what his test did, and basically his test is like, imagine zooming in on something. Well, what his test does on the PCR test is, if you do, he says specifically, if you do more than 5 cycles or something, you will find anything on anyone, because at any point most particles are in us. And then he says, and then it turned out there's people doing freedom of information requests, and they found out that the people doing the PCR test were doing 24 cycles, and if they looked for it, they would have found every single disease you could have think of, because
For sakes, I don't want disinformation going on this live. Coronavirus isn't man-made. Coronavirus is primarily it's in animals and stuff like that.
Yeah, coronavirus.
How it went from animals to humans, that is where people say, was that an intervention of man to do that?
Well,
that was definitely
coronavirus is not a man-made thing.
But
Coronavirus is not, but COVID-19 has a patent number, and nothing in nature has a patent number.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So from the jump from animals to man,
yeah,
saying it could have happened in those markets in China.
It was created in Wuhan in the lab.
No. We know.
I ended up in hospital with COVID.
We know for a fact that it didn't do that now. Like, it's literally there. The evidence is there. It didn't go from an animal. We know for a fact it was made in the lab.
Yeah, there's a lot of review on that now. It's
100% a fact.
A lot of people are catching on, saying that that's not actually what it is. It is, in fact, from a lab. Something about it has been engineered in some way. There's some sort of bioengineering going on or something.
The Wuhan lab, that would have been from how to transfer that from, like bird flu. The same bird flu can go to humans soon enough. And there's this disease that's killing people in Congo now. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, what the monkey stuff? The monkey.
No, it's no flu.
It's a different one. There's some. I can't remember what it's called, but it's killing people. It's got 175 deaths already, but that's probably going to be the next pandemic.
Well, yeah, there was like 3 or 4 cases, and I think in Europe, and one of those was in the UK. That was a few weeks ago.
But guys, I'm gonna have to interrupt you. Sorry, I'm gonna be the Serb, actually, the loud Serbian lady, to say that I think, we're kind of veering off the topic at hand, which is just the incredible information that Chaz shared, with all the detailed data, with all the bravery, with, all the follow-ups we've gotten. I feel like the moment that these conversations start to go out, because we are that curious as people, like we go into these things, and we have all of this, input. But the moment it goes into that direction, I think we swear like quite vastly into a direction that is kind of, I feel like we should be honoring these last moments, talking about, the info that was shared, with
Thank you for that.
We've got.
This isn't the last we've heard of Kaz. And Kaz,
I hope so.
Kaz, how do you feel tonight coming up? You've been on for about 2 and a bit hours now. How do you feel coming up? Are you glad you've come up tonight?
Yes, I am glad, because there's so much information that I've not shared, that I've not had the opportunity to share. Because most people that I've spoken to just want to know about the incident, but they've not heard the evidence and the work that's gone into it for the last 8 years.
You're going to get the opportunity to do that on air, kid. I promise you that.
Well, I hope so, because people need to know what's going on. I mean, I was shocked and appalled by what happened that night. And it's such a huge burden, because I don't just feel responsible for all of you and your families and your children. I feel a responsibility to them, because they were not hostile, but we shot them down anyway.
Yeah.
So, do you think there was alien bodies potentially that was recovered that night?
Not within the barrels, no. The barrels themselves seem to be alive.
Do you think did them barrels seem conscious?
Yes.
All right.
They had. It was like they had emotion. They were afraid. They tried to hide. The Cole Winston witness who made the public statement, which I have, which you may find on that Basement Hangout interview, said that he watched one of the green objects go down in one of the fields, where it stayed there for 5 minutes, whilst the helicopters were sweeping backwards and forwards across the fields looking for it. And when they were almost upon it, it's popped up and moved, ran away, if you like. It was hiding. That's consciousness.
We're not setting a very good example.
It's interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that, because they're saying that consciousness can be put into something AI and robot. I can't get my head around. This is they're saying that one day AI will become sentient. I can't get my head around how a chip can become a sentient being.
It can.
However, when you research into it, they're saying it's not going to be that. It's going to be consciousness that goes into the AI that makes it a sentient being, and we're going to be fooled to think it's a sentient being when really we're being tricked and it's something.
Didn't the ancient Egyptians call their flying craft their arcs of millions of years? Didn't they call them biomorphic machines and give them pet names? Living machines.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know about that, but I do know that Graham Hancock's onto something with all that.
Anubis.
It's information for you. There you go.
Send me some DMs on that. I'll have to look at that because
Yeah.
no, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yes,
for
but
that.
you could maybe wire a computer up to a brain, but I mean, would
Well,
that
you
even
got to
work?
think of this one arm. We are the only thing that is stopping us from becoming immortal is being able to move our brain into another, which they were potentially going to do a few years. Like remember that handicapped person who's going to have his head cut off and put onto another body. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But he randomly fell in love with this beautiful woman from Serbia or whatever it was, and then he decided he didn't want to do it. This woman was absolutely stunning. This guy was handicapped, could not move. His head had been removed and put onto this body, and that was to prove that they can put this on another body, and he could be mobile and able again.
You need to.
It didn't go ahead. If they would have done that and had achieved it, we've got everything. If you lose an arm, you can get an arm, get a heart, you can get a lung, you can get all sorts now. You can do whatever you want. It's just the brain. As soon as they can remove the brain and put it into something else, it's a game changer for the world. A game changer to live forever, basically. If you can do that.
At the moment, AI is only like perfect collaboration. Like you can ask it
AI is already smarter than us.
Yeah, but it
Everything
still can't create on our level. It has to collaborate.
Everything is being steered towards long-term space
No,
travel.
I disagree. I think AI is just leveling above us. I really do think we are now exactly 1 year away from Elon Musk releasing those robots, and I hope to God I've got £20,000 to be able to get one of them.
I reckon the scary man.
Wait, I have a question. Like, how do you tie in like what Chaz said to the? I'm winding back because we have 2 more minutes just by what you just said like 19 minutes ago. So I'm just winding up. How do we get to AI from from Chaz? I'm still missing those links, dude.
The topic isn't just UFOs.
It's all part of the bigger
It's a variety of things. We can go into all sorts of dark, sinister things.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
what it's
AI
like.
is definitely associated.
How can we achieve contact?
Seeing as well. A lot of it could be AI as well, because you've got to think about it. The vast distances some of these things are coming. If it's coming from a civilization that's, well, in this universe at least.
Dan just use us as examples.
I think they're coming from the same space and time as we are.
It's been robotics from Earth. So it's been technology. It's not been us. There is a story that we have been to Mars, but if we're going to go to another planet, it's probably going to be a robot first. It's probably not going to be us.
No, of course not. No, because of the harsh environments.
Harsh environments. I'm sorry, I'm nearly laughing now.
Good point.
Do you know what? I'm not saying this just because you're American, but you could totally be John Connor.
Bill Bob is so enthusiastic about this topic, but he's on the other side. We have to bear in mind he's American, so we have to give him, help him out with that. But he's so passionate about this topic. But he is he's got balls, and he will come out and he'll put things out there, and that's what you need. People that are going to come out alive together with balls and say this is this, this is this, is that. We might be wrong. In fact, a lot of the stuff we talk about, we're potentially wrong on. But we need to talk about it because we have not been proven wrong on it. Until we've been proven wrong on it, we can talk about this. And we're not being proven wrong on it yet. In fact, a lot of it
that's the most important thing.
that there's still things to be discussed on this. And that's what we need to do. We need to push the agenda out there, get people excited on this topic. We need to get the excitement on this, so I do go into the dark side.
All I can say is that in 8 years of doing this investigation, there isn't one debunker in the world that's been able to disprove it. And you'd think they'd be able to find something, and there's absolutely nothing, because I've got the receipts, I've got the proof, and I'd love to be able to show you it all.
Kaz, you remind me of my mum, and someone that I wouldn't want to mess with. So I'm going to take
a compliment.
I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah.
She reminds me of a tough woman, and if you've seen her interviews, you'll see she comes across. I thought she was reading from a book when she thinks, but then when you watch her thing, it is like she's probably got a bit of autism, maybe, where she's just, this is all coming out when she's speaking.
I think when you've lived it for as long as I have.
And I say that in a nice way because I think I'm autistic with UFOs. Because
I mean, look at all of us here in the chat.
Rain Man with it.
Yeah.
We're sitting here for hours.
I think a lot of the UFO people are autistic. They just don't know about it.
No, somebody asked, when are you doing your next live with the speakers that are in the boxes?
Great point.
Me?
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, Sunday, whenever Kaz can get a video on. I'm going to do a joint one. In fact, I might let Dan post that one, and then we'll jump on Dan's view.
Like, I can't with you guys. You're just like constantly like, I have to like clean my evenings up now. Like, I have to like, can we do it before 5? Why? Because I have these lives to watch. I have to explain.
It's not our fault that the US have no balls and the UK is taking control of
I
this.
see that. No, but now like my life's changed completely.
These streams
what you need to know. This happened, you know.
We have to do a media schedule, like.
We're trying to get,
so we don't overlap
trying to get interesting interviews. We're trying to get interesting people on here. The fact that Kaz has come out of nowhere, someone had obviously gone and reached out and said, someone's talking about you, she's come in. This is what we want. And from the UK, that's important. We want people from the UK. I keep saying this, the UK have the balls. There's a famous saying, the US have all the gear and no idea. Without the UK's intelligence, the US would not be nothing. And that's no disrespect to the US because they've got all the gear. But we do have the intelligence. We are the brains behind a lot of the operations and behind a lot of the things that have gone on.
Well,
for the
they
world.
weren't clever enough.
We need to work together. We need more people in the UK talking about it. And I'll keep dragging people. There's nobody stepping on my toes. I hope there's 1 million people from the UK talking about this. Daniel's one of them. I want more people like Daniel to be following in his footsteps and my footsteps, just to be talking about it. Do not feel ridiculed. Just talk about it. Just talk about it.
I feel like, honestly, like I'm gonna have to like take a bit of a stand here, back with the Slavic vibes. Like, people are talking about it, not just in the ways you are talking about it.
So not to undermine the reporting and the detailed analysis, but there's so many angles to this. So it's valid, and of course the entry and the facts and the data that you guys are driving, and talking with these people and Chaz and all of the stories, that's remarkable work. But it's not just the one faceted story. So I would just want to like take a bit of a stand and tell you, excuse me, like there's many layers to this onion. So
I know if you watch my channel, I go into many layers on this topic. That's the problem. A lot of my stuff I can't prove right now. I have to sit on it, get trolled like hell, but it will eventually come out. But it won't come out until that first thing's acknowledged, which is UFOs are real. It is slowly being acknowledged.
Yeah.
To get to
I've got a video.
The occupants, and we can't go into everything else. So
I've got a video of the crash site.
My research is wrong. I'm confident in my research. I'm confident in what I say. And over the last 6 months, I've gone from extraterrestrial to ultra-terrestrial, and I've got my reasons for that. And I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest they've always been here. Doesn't make sense from coming light years to come and buzz UFO missiles and satellite rockets and missiles and all this kind of stuff.
Sorry, just the comment. Yes, there's a lot of layers. Keep talking.
Don't get me started on the children, because that's one of the main things I started the channel for. Save the children.
Could we agree, right? If there's any sort of like attack, then we know that it's the government, because like you just said, what would be the point in something so powerful coming to attack something that's so weak?
I think it's a very valid point.
Like,
They would have done it a long
It's a
time
very valid
ago
point.
if they were hostile. It's
Good point.
us that are hostile.
Yeah,
I
good
agree.
point. And a great reminder.
You know,
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
it's a
people
very
have
valid
said
point.
to me, if they're real, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Well, after what I have witnessed, I can see quite clearly why they don't land on the White House lawn, because we pursue, we shoot down, we're the hostile ones,
Yeah,
and they're
Yeah.
very concerned
yeah, but
about that.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, if they've got stuff like aircraft that can move at a ridiculous rate like that, they can literally dodge missiles and bullets, then they're obviously way more powerful and capable than our military. So they could just come and seize everything. Like the other day, there's even said in Congress, apparently, that they were able to hack into the computers that were controlling all the nukes.
Yeah.
It's if they can do that, like, then there'd be no reason for them to attack us, because they've obviously got the technologies to deter everything we have got. So it'd be a case of just saying, if they attack, it is clearly it's clearly the government. They're just going to use it like as an excuse.
But I think the TR3B has been declassified, hasn't it?
No, no, it hasn't.
It hasn't.
I
There,
think
no,
it's
but
been.
there have been a lot more sightings of it, and also there's another one that keeps popping up at the moment, which is a triangular craft that was considered to be scrapped back in the 80s, but apparently someone saw it flying somewhere and took
Well, of course,
pictures.
British Airways builds the Tyrannus over here, which they fly out of Anglesey, which is tells you how deep the rabbit hole goes. They're unmanned drones that are about 40 feet across, maybe a little bit more, and they're built to replicate the real craft. So we have real craft that look like those. To quote, what was the actual quote? It was something like, as a decoy for the enemy, whoever the enemy might be. But I think that these craft have been trying to make contact with us.
Yeah, I get the feeling, certainly from some of these interventions. I definitely think you're on something, Kaz. I do think that we are the aggressors, and I think the reason
Yes.
for that, and I'll explain why, is because we realise we're at a major disadvantage on the universal level. Okay, so typically the military-industrial complex will respond in kind by going, right, well, let's bring some of these things down, work out how to reverse engineer it, so we can remain dominant on once we start becoming interstellar. So
But I also think, that if the TR3B hasn't been declassified, as you've said, that if we've got this machine, we wouldn't fly it over a populated area at a low altitude and show everybody what we've got. I mean, if they are reverse engineered craft, then that's not our craft, because they want to keep them secret.
yeah, no, that's true. That's definitely true, which makes you think what it is. So people have been saying it's adversarial. I don't think that's what it is at all.
We wouldn't be here if they were.
Exactly. And also, why would you put lights on it and make yourself known to those RAF bases, and also over New Jersey, probably right now as well? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. Yeah. Yeah. But I do think that, as you said, Kaz, I think that some of these things are genuinely very innocent and they don't understand conflict. Okay. So the interaction that you witnessed was a prime example of that. It's this innocent, sentient being that just wants to play. And it's like a puppy that we're trying to shoot down.
Yes.
And I think that could be the answer for that particular species, whatever it might be. I don't know. But like that could be the case quite regularly, that these things are innocently just popping in and out of dimensions because they just consider that normal. We consider that, extreme intelligence and extreme technology, and we say that's a threat, kill it. That's what we're doing.
It was just a sheer scale of what I witnessed. The pyramid itself was like a high-rise building. It was enormous, and the smaller craft that it jettisoned. I mean, they clearly went after the green object, which was different to everything else. Like it was some kind of I don't know, deliberate decoy, perhaps. I don't know.
I don't know how they're able to chase it down if they move so quickly. I don't understand how they caught
Well, this
it.
is something that we presume an awful lot. You know, these things travelled here in another craft. Perhaps they didn't have that ability to travel at light speed. You know, the barrels were very slow and very
Okay.
peaceful. You know, the green object itself moved a little more erratically, like it skipped and bobbed as opposed to traveling in a straight line. But they were completely surrounded in all directions, 20 miles out, by military gunships. You know, it didn't matter in which
So they knew
direction
they
they
were
went.
coming.
They had $4.5 billion worth of equipment in the air, and that's not including the aircraft carrier or the nuclear submarine that would have traveled with it. You know, they put a net around it, and that was just for one of those craft. So what happens if they all come?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They're not going to be able to do that, are they? That's the thing.
No.
If they all start showing up, then. But clearly, again, the word summoning has been used recently by quite a few people. I think George Knapp may have mentioned that, and a few others. But it seems like we're summoning some of these things to us.
Yeah,
It's our
that's what I
consciousness.
want to hear from Wolfpack. She had a point about it earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important that we go from within and connect with them, because it's not easy for us to connect with them going around looking for them or calling them to us, right? Because of the military and everything that's constantly chasing them. So when we go from within, we reach this telepathic contact. They show us visions, they connect, and then they guide us to where we will see them. I've experienced that myself. I had these visions happening, and I was guided to go towards the sea. And I was walking, there is sea very close to my childhood home. And I was walking there, and I suddenly saw one above in the sky, and I was able to take a photo as well, which I don't have anymore. Maybe on my iPad I can check, but I haven't seen it in a while.
It's also the power of uniform thought. You know, when a group of people get together and they all think the same thoughts, that you can make things happen. You know,
We
and
had that happening as well in Norway. There was a UFO conference, I think it was in 2013. We had a lot of the different whistleblowers who are now very famous coming on Skype, and some of them were there in person. Well, after we were able to see craft together, and we also saw these lenticular clouds and everything, and it was really magical. And then suddenly there were people coming, and there were helicopters, and it was really scary. So I had an experience where after this happened, I went to a motel looking, like a facility, like a motel to stay for the night. And it was only one room. And then the door was going outwards towards basically the parking lot. And there was there were a bunch of people, different men who came out of nowhere. They just came over to me basically and tried to break in. So it was really scary, and I had to call the police. And after, they were able, like the police can find them or anything. And then after that, the people from my group, they said I could stay with them, and we stayed another place. It was really, really, really scary. So, you know, after when you do have some type of contact, even in Norway, you get really like hazed and chased, and that's why I haven't been speaking up since then. I was on several podcasts and everything and radio shows, and I started getting so uncomfortable in my life because I also had people following me. I also had helicopters, so I stopped speaking about it for years publicly.
You shouldn't remote viewing. Like they'll get you for remote viewing. Like to understand that.
There's a
Oh,
lady
I
on.
need that.
There's a whistleblower here. Wolfpack. There's a whistleblower on here. That Quantum Seeker 369. She's a whistleblower. She's had her parents taken. For coming on and speaking about everything, and she's telling everybody to keep your positivity up because what they're going to pay. She does the code, the decoding. Government. So she decodes everything, and her job, high up, and she has come out and said, please everybody, don't listen to the crazy, keep your frequency high, it's all a smokescreen. And she's really, she's on her own over there, Quantum Seeker 369, and she's putting it out, and she's built momentum there in the last 3 weeks, and I really strongly advise going over to her and listen, when she's on. They sit outside her house. They have bought the house around her. it's unbelievable what she's going through at the
Can you
minute.
send can you send her no can you send me her contact info?
Of course,
Because in my experience, okay, so the reason why I stopped speaking about this is because they nearly took my horse from me. And for me that was it. You know, like I suddenly had people coming up to my house and saying that, or meeting up in the stable, I mean, and saying that, oh, you know, they had the right to take my horse. And I had to basically fight them almost for them not to take my horse. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. That's why I'm afraid of speaking up anymore. Like it's fine now, you know, because so many years have gone by, but yeah, that was hard.
They do try and threaten us with what we love the most, and that's why when they threatened my family and my children, they chose the wrong thing to try and take, because I'll protect my children with my life.
You can tell
I
that.
don't
Kaz.
give a damn who they
You can
are.
tell that.
So I went full bore. I went full bore on them, and I'm not stopping. You know, I don't know, and I believe that I am the only person to write to the monarch about this to try and stay in line with what the Americans are trying to do, and ask for a disclosure regarding non-human intelligences. And I will provide the letter and the response that I got from the king. You know, like, I'm not messing around here. I've gone to everybody and I've taken it to them. You know, the fact that I had the police facing prison and a £2,000 fine, or both, you know, I'm not messing about here, because I know what happened and it was real. And it's serious, that it affects us all.
Yeah, it really, yeah, I mean, the message you got from whatever that voice was, I mean, I think that was one part of the story, but that seems to be the case also with other sort of interactions with this stuff. The other thing is also you have to understand is our policies and laws here are slightly different to America. We don't have as much freedom of speech, certainly at the moment, as I'm sure you're aware. And there are certain rules that don't allow us to speak about things that could be a direct threat to national British security in this case, whereby certain, government bodies can actually overstep their mark and, remove you from wherever you are to keep you silent on certain things. So this one, I feel like that is, you have to tread quite carefully, I guess, with this, because if you don't go to the right person, it ends up going to the wrong person. They find out what you're doing.
They know what I'm doing. They've known from day one what I'm doing, and I said to them personally, I don't know what you're worried about. It's just going to be another story like Roswell and Rendlesham.
Yeah.
But when the threat extended, that's when I decided that I wasn't just going to tell it. I was going to prove it. Yeah. And that's what I've done.
Late. Sorry, guys, I got to roll. It's late, but thanks for the chat.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Dilbop, you're invited. Obviously, Daniel, without saying, is invited, or I'm invited to his. When Kaz has the video to be able to share this footage, either on mine or Daniel's, are you happy to come on, Kaz, and do that?
Absolutely. If I can't get it on TikTok, I'll send it to you and you can show it,
Oh, it's much better coming from you, though, because it's your story. We want to hear you. We don't want to hear me. We don't want to hear Daniel. We want to hear you. This is why we're doing this. We want people like you. You've been so brave tonight, coming up, talking, and you've got a community. I don't think you've realised that you've now got a massive following. You've got a community behind you now. Don't feel
I
like
appreciate that.
You were getting backed, and not from the
I want
UK.
to thank everybody.
We're two UK TikTokers, and obviously we have to Dilbops. USA. We can't help that.
I have been shadow banned, as you're
He
aware.
can help as well.
There's been a media blackout on this.
Yeah, they completely has. Yeah, they really has.
Yeah, I've been lent on by the mainstream, and it wasn't. What did I see? It was more an interrogation. Who did I speak to, and how did I speak to those people specifically? Was it texts or chat boxes or emails or phone calls? They wanted to know specifics. And, I don't intimidate easily, but when I got off the phone, I was physically shaking. That's how bad it was. And it was machine gun fired questions, one after the other. There was no break. It was quite well rehearsed, I think, on their part.
When did this happen, sorry?
Straight after the event, as soon as I put my comment on Wells Online, I was contacted by Jessica Morgan Flynn, who was the reporter that wrote the 2 cover stories. And she sent me a message request on Facebook to ask me to contact her. And foolishly, I thought that perhaps she wanted the story, but it wasn't. I mean, the military were in at ground level from the off, using fake Facebook profiles with the name of, the Smoking Man and Agent Fox Mulder, because they like to try and belittle and make a joke out of it all. But they was like, LOL, good one. And I said, yes, it was good, and then I told them a bit more about what had happened, and they soon fell silent because they realized that I had seen the whole thing. But yes, they were in at community level, at community hubs, put in a one-liner in there to say it was a military exercise before anybody knew, or that was the cover story, with no follow-up. They weren't members of the hub, so how they got in there, I don't know. The same way, I suppose, the way they hacked my phone and David's computer. So they were literally going around all the local hubs, whether that be Llantrisant or Penturk or Betwas, any of them, with the one simple one-liner, no follow-up. It was a military exercise, and that was the end of it.
Just one quick question. What regiment came to the scene? Would you know?
I don't know, but
Right.
they were military, even though they lied about their identity
To be
and
fair,
gave
that'd be hard to know.
Yeah,
2
yeah.
different cover stories. Well, I know that the
wonder,
Americans, what
question.
I've been able to find out is that the Americans came over to Swindon. Was it RAF Fairford?
Yeah.
And that's the US Air Force Base.
Right, okay. Well, they came over to speak to a squadron over here. I think it was Squadron 51. And I guess just so that they'd know what they were dealing with.
But I have a question from the chat that was asked your way, which I thought was interesting. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but do you feel like you're like endangering yourself by doing this expose?
Look, it took me 18 months to come to terms with what they asked me to do. And I knew that as soon as I spoke out, I accepted the repercussions. And that's just been my life since. I understand what that means for me. I'm not under any illusions. But it's so important. It's so dangerous what they're doing.
They
It
threatened
affects every human
your
being on
family,
this
and you
planet.
come out.
Sorry?
They threatened your family,
Yes.
and you've done the right thing. I would have done exactly the same thing. I think everyone in this chat would have done the same thing. If your family was threatened, you would come out. I would come out anyway.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's my personality. But I think a lot of people, once you cross that line of you threaten my family, you have to do something. You have to make a stand. And I can tell by your personality. I've seen your videos. You're a tough woman.
PTSD
You remind me of
is
my mum, and my mum's the toughest woman I know. And you remind me of
PTSD is a bitch, and I didn't realise that I had PTSD. It was only after I ripped into that commanding officer that tried to move me on, and I went from 0 to 100, and then after I'd ripped him a new one, I was, oh my God, Kaz, where did that come from? Because my emotions were completely erratic, and it was only then that I realised there's something wrong with me, because I didn't realise how profoundly I'd been affected by it. But certainly I read that commanding officer, the Vodafone commanding officer, yeah, a new one.
So I'm going to wind this down in a minute because, like I said, I'm already 25 minutes over my time. I said. When are your next free, Kaz?
I can be free for you. I'm just desperately trying to get my TikTok account live.
Tell you what, get your TikTok going. We'll do a practice thing where you can make sure you can. I'll just do a live just so you can join and make sure you can go on the video. And then I'll speak to Daniel, get Daniel involved. I'll speak to Dilbot. Dilbo's got a lot of American followers as well. And I'll speak to Ashton Forbes, and we'll get Ashton Forbes on the live as well. So we'll get Ashton, we'll get Dan, we'll get Dilbot, and I'll probably reach out and get a few more of the big podcasters on. And that's not no disrespect to anybody else. It's in you
Absolutely not.
able
No.
to come up as well. We want to get.
That's
She's
fine.
going to provide the evidence. We want it to be seen. We want some of the biggest platforms to be able to share this out there. I do speak to a lot of them, so we'll do our best to get that out there too. And I don't mind if it's on my channel or if it's on Daniel's channel. Not Dilbot because it's American. It needs to stay in the UK. This needs to no disrespect. No. We want it in the UK. We want to get the.
I think what
UK.
TikTok is
Yeah,
saying
I mean that's
is
the most
that
important thing. I think spreading
Yeah,
the
we need
word.
to keep it the UK because I think the UK
Yeah.
have the balls to go with this, and you've got the protection because I'm only an hour's drive from you. Daniel's, he can fly, he can get to you very quickly if you're in trouble. And,
You can land behind my house. There's lots of
Nilbot can
space.
send a tweet
All right.
if you're in trouble. So
I know when I'm coming.
Yeah.
No, but thank you for coming
I
on.
think I need 1,000 followers to go live. I'm not sure, but that's what it's telling me on
Follow
Google.
the other
Make
account.
sure
though,
you
Thanks,
follow
follow the
800.
one.
Parker. Don't follow this account she's using.
It's the green one.
Follow
The green
in
one,
fact,
yeah.
You can follow both actually. Follow both. Follow the user one and follow Kaz Clark because this one might get to 1,000 before the other one.
Okay.
Oh,
And then we'll test it out. And I want this footage. I want the you know.
I've got footage of a crash site.
Basically what you put on the basement. And if you can bring a guest, if you can bring someone that might be able to corroborate what you've seen as well, that would be great as well.
It'll have to be on a Friday or a Saturday then, because
Whenever you're
Jacob
free.
works.
Whenever you're free.
I reckon if you do a video shouting the accounts out over a week, should reach that following.
Yeah, we can
potentially.
leave it for a week. We can leave it for. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the live. I'm going to share a segment of it, and I'm going to share the live. So if people see that, please share it and please comment, and I'll do a video over it and say Kaz Clark was interviewed and share it. That'll help me out massively because then we
Help
can
me
get
out
that
massively.
live out there, and we can say we've got another one where she's going to be providing the evidence of this, so we can get that out there for people. I'm sure Daniel will do it. I'm sure Dilbot can do it. I'm sure they were.
In the meantime, if you have
There are
time,
actually
watch
some
the
other big
basement
channels.
hangout.
I've actually noticed there's some other big channels that I've been watching tonight that I've not been able to get in the box.
Yeah, Nate was in the chat earlier on, so yeah.
There's some big podcasters that I've seen your stuff tonight, Kaz. So you've done the right thing tonight. You're going to get seen.
Yeah,
I can promise you that. And we've held about 500 for at least 3 hours, so that was good. Gone down now.
Guys, I'm falling asleep. I'm sorry, but I'm literally it's 3:28 a.m. in
Me too,
Stockholm.
yeah.
I am out. Thank you so much.
You're busted. Nice.
But I'm literally like, I'm trying to be up, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't. I'm literally asleep in my bed, guys. Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much. I'm gonna go sleep now.
Right, take care.
I'm a night bird. I can't.
Thank you, guys.
You too.
I don't
Have a good
sleep
night.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you for coming on Wolfpack, being brave as well. Claire,
Yeah,
thank
very
you.
much. Thank you
Obviously,
for having me.
Kaz, thank you. MUFC, you're my only moderator, so thank you.
If you need another one,
Have a
let
good
us
night.
know.
Thank you.
Sure, I'll jump
Thank
in
you,
as well.
everyone.
Thank you.
And obviously, thank you, Daniel
Bye,
Knightley.
guys.
All right, guys. Well, Kaz, it was lovely to talk to you. We'll see you soon. Okay, we'll get this done.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll need to
We'll
get
get it
this
done.
out.
It's all right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you, guys. Thank you.
Dilbot,
Good
thank you
night.
for having great
Thank
hair.
you.
Take care, people. Take care.